So over the past few days, we've been discussing this DOGE dividend check that could be maybe $2,000, potentially $5,000, but now we're getting reports that this check could be even bigger, where the American people could see a $5,000 per household check this year, but this could actually continue for 2026, 2027, and 2028. I want to explain what's going on, but how we could actually receive multiple or recurring stimulus checks from the Trump administration and from DOGE simply because they're finding fraud, abuse, and wasteful spending in our government. So I'm going to explain what's going on in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates, and now let's begin. So I know what you're thinking, and everybody has been thinking this for the past several months as well, that there's no way we are going to see another stimulus check or dividend check or rebate. It's not going to happen under the Trump administration because the federal government has no money. But here's the truth. As DOGE starts to dip into these different agencies and programs, they're starting to slowly uncover the fraud and abuse that we have been experiencing for the past several decades. But it's what's happening now that is actually very, very important. I want to get to that in a moment. First, look at this. Trump is weighing a DOGE dividend to send taxpayers checks with saved funds. This is something that we know he has been discussing. But let's take a step back. How is DOGE able to go and find all this fraud, find all this abuse and wasteful spending? Well, they're taking their time and they're going into every different agency and they're doing financial audits. They're trying to figure out where the money is going, and that's where they're cutting it out. Now, I want to play you a clip because what is said in this clip is huge. This is where I believe we are actually going. And think about this because this is a tactic that President Trump has used before. Listen to this.
Imagine for a moment everyday Americans like you and me pointing out waste, fraud, and abuse that we see. Why do we care? Because now with the DOGE dividend, the more money that DOGE saves, the bigger our DOGE dividend check is. And so I think we actually cut more when everyday Americans are able to call out waste, fraud, and abuse they see in their own communities, report it to DOGE, DOGE saves more, and guess what? The DOGE dividend check with President Trump's signature is even larger.
Okay, so what he just said right there is simple. And keep in mind, President Trump has used this tactic before. He's brought it up before about the American people pointing out where there were illegal immigrants, right? And if we send them back to their home countries, we spend less money here in the United States, which means we actually get some of that money. We would get larger benefits for Social Security, food stamps, okay, Medicare, Medicaid, all these different programs. But think about this for a second. If the American people, you and I, for instance, we are pointing out the fraud and abuse, where maybe we see a federal work truck hauling a boat on weekends, or somebody is using a federal work vehicle to take their family on a trip to go to a campsite to go boating, right? And we start to point that out. Just the other day, we learned that $40 billion in credit card abuse is happening from the federal government, where many federal employees have a federal credit card, okay? I believe there's like 4.3 million federal credit cards issued. There's not that many federal employees. So where is this money? Why are so many cards issued? Now, are some of those cards on previous federal employees, former ones that are no longer with the federal government? Do they still have a card? Are they still using it? Are they still able to access funds? Right? We don't know that. But again, keep that in mind, that right now the Trump administration and the Department of Government Efficiency, they are finding, or they want to find about, or cut about $2 trillion in federal spending. If they are able to do that, and even just this morning, we learned that President Trump wants to see the Pentagon slash about 8% of their annual budget. 8%. It's like an $800 and some billion budget. So 8% per year for the next 4 or 5 years, that's a decent savings. Now, are we going to receive that through a dividend check? I don't know. But all I can tell you right now is that this is real. The talks are real. And again, President Trump backs the idea of sending some of DOGE's savings to American citizens. Now, I want to be very clear here. Okay? What we know is that if the American people, if 79 million Americans receive a $5,000 rebate check or dividend check, it's going to act as stimulus. Okay? It's going to stimulate the U.S. economy. This is where things get very interesting. Because even though we can get this stimulus check back and we can get it paid to us quickly, some are speculating that maybe that's not the best move. Maybe we need to go a step further and provide some type of requirement, like a work requirement, okay, where you had to be working anytime over the past, let's say, 4 years. And if you were working over the past 4 years, then your household would be eligible for this stimulus payment, this rebate check, this dividend check. But if you were not working, then your household is not eligible. Simple enough. That right there would cut out potentially millions of previously eligible recipients, which would save a little bit more money. But again, if you were working, and I bring this up because the Trump administration is adamant that we need more Americans in the workforce. We need to be working, bringing in an income, okay, contributing to the community, and paying taxes. Yeah. Now, here's the next thing, and this is where many people are a little bit concerned. If we were to receive a $5,000 dividend check, are we going to have to pay taxes on that? According to reports, the answer would be no. That the Trump administration would put in a provision where no, you do not have to pay any taxes on the money that you just received as your, what we call a rebate, because we already were taxes. Now, here's the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention today. And I want to play a little bit more of this clip from Fox News, but the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention today is because there's a lot of speculation. Are we really going to see this dividend check go through? The answer as of right now is we don't know. But the DOGE dividend check program, it's reasonable. That's what we're hearing. It's reasonable. It's not something that it's a guarantee it's going to go through. It's not something that it's so out of the question because of our current debt here in the United States of $36 trillion. Because there's been some question about, well, wouldn't it just make more sense to pay down our federal deficit of $36 trillion? And some say yes, that would be the most logical thing. But at the same time, if we just pay off our debt, that means there's not as much money going around. A little bit of inflation's good. 2% inflation's good. The problem right now is at 3%. So if we see this check go out, just know there might be a bigger push from the Federal Reserve to raise rates to help push inflation down. Keep in mind, this check, if it does go through, if it does happen, this is likely going to be something that, according to reports, is spread out. It's not something that you're going to see a $10,000 check today. Okay, maybe a $5,000 one for a household, but it's not going to be too much bigger than that because they want to spread it out to ensure that the American people aren't pushing for additional inflation. Let me play the rest of this clip for you. Listen to this.
Yeah, we will see where this idea goes. Last night, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, told Brett Baier, he said, let's just play this real quick.
I think when I came in, we all think there's waste, there's abuse. I think there may be some real fraud here, Brett.
Real quick, he said some real fraud. That means stealing, essentially, right?
That's exactly what it means. Secretary Bessent speaks truth. That means stealing. And stealing from whom? Stealing from the American people. President Trump's DOGE dividend does right by them. It rewrites the social contract. It restores trust between the taxpayer and her government. And it's why President Trump should pursue this policy.
So right there is some real fraud. Now, who would be better to uncover this real fraud than coworkers? The American people that are actually seeing it. Right? What about this wasteful spending? That's one that's kind of a gray area. And think about this for a second. Maybe your city puts on some big old parade. They're paying for all this money and you don't agree with it. That would be a gray area where now you start sending in, into a tip line. Hey, this city of wherever, here in Washington State is doing this. You should look into it. That's where things are going to be very, very interesting. Now, I don't know where they go with this, but I do know what President Trump's thought process has been over the past several years. And so using the American people to help do the federal government's job is something that he's not opposed to. He would implement different strategies and tactics and tools and some type of rewards program for the American people, like this DOGE dividend, in order to accomplish an end goal. So, we'll see. Just understand right now, you may be called in to help very soon. So again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. And again, I'll see you guys on the next one.